Sid Roth is talking about one of the tales that is told of Smith Wigglesworth. Watch this.
Hello, Sid Roth here. Welcome to my world, where it's naturally supernatural. I have read of the great men and women of faith. One in particular intrigues me so much. His name, Smith Wigglesworth. He had some of the most outrageous miracles I ever heard of in my life. Let me give you one example. Some parents had a 2-month-old baby dying in the hospital. The parents kidnapped the child, took the child to a Smith Wigglesworth meeting, and Smith looks at the child, looks at the parents, and says, "Can I do what God tells me to do?" Well, what would you do if you were the parents? The child's dying anyway, right? He takes the baby, 2-month-old, throws the baby against the wall. The baby. Then the baby's on the floor. Have you ever seen someone play soccer? Have you ever seen them kick a soccer ball? He does that with the baby. The baby falls into the congregation. No crying. Is it dead? 100% healed. No crying.
Is that not shocking? That's demonic. That is demonic. And one of the charismatic mantras that you hear all the time today in the charismatic movement, what God does for one, He'll do for you. And so people hear about this story. They see Sid Roth reenacting it on his program, and they're at home, and they're like, well, my kid is sick. My neighbor's kid is sick. What God does for one, He'll do for you. Unless you think that there are not people in this world dumb enough, stupid enough to believe this kind of stuff. The very fact that he put it on his program and aired it all around the world, the very fact that this program remains on his YouTube channel to this very day is inherent, self-evident proof that there are people dumb enough to believe this. But he's one of God's greatest generals. A man who allegedly threw a baby against a wall and then kicked it. Sid Roth and Dr. Michael Brown, good close personal friends. Good close personal friends for almost 40 years now. And Dr. Michael Brown will not renounce this story. Amy Semple McPherson, Sister Amy, another one of the great generals of the charismatic movement. Amy Semple McPherson is known as the Queen of Pentecostalism. She always wanted to be in theater as a kid. She just had dreams of being an actress, being in theater. She married a man named Robert Semple. And shortly after they got married, they went to China, believing that they would be given the gift of tongues upon getting there. Of course, that did not work out. But her husband died just 2 months after they arrived in China. Got sick and died. And Amy came back to the United States and gave birth to their firstborn child just a month later after arriving back in New York. Then she married a man named Harold McPherson, and they moved to Chicago. Now, Amy began preaching multiple nights per week, leaving her husband Harold at home to care for the children. She decided that God called her to preach, and so she went out and did so multiple nights per week. And she believed that the Holy Spirit wanted her to preach, to do this work, despite the very clear teachings of 1 Timothy chapter 2 and 3, that preachers, elders are to be men, but that didn't matter to her. And so she ignored that biblical parameter. She also ignored the biblical parameter found in Titus chapter 2, where the older women are to teach the younger women to do what? To be workers where? At home, being subject to their own husbands. No, she didn't care about that either. She left her children with her husband at home, and she went out gallivanting around the countryside, preaching. Left her husband with the kids. Dear friends, if a woman cannot abide by the biblical parameters of 1 Timothy chapter 2, 1 Timothy chapter 3, and Titus chapter 2, then it doesn't matter anything else. I care nothing to hear about anything else they would say about the Bible if they can't follow those biblical parameters. Beth Moore, Joyce Meyer. She was a street preacher. She was very odd, but she would go out in the street and she would literally do this. She would stand in the middle of the street corner staring up at the sky. And she would just stand there for the longest time, staring up into the sky blankly, sometimes with her hand raised up, just staring into the sky. And of course, that drew a crowd, right? Because people were like, what is this woman doing? And so it drew a crowd. And once a crowd came, then she started doing her thing, started preaching. She went on preaching tours all around the United States and performed healing meetings. And then she actually started a church. She opened the Angelus Temple. That's not a typo. It is a U.S. Angelus Temple. This was the largest, quote-unquote, church in the United States. Absolutely massive. Amy Semple McPherson was a rock star in her day. She was a household name. Everybody knew about Amy Semple McPherson. She was an evangelical equivalent of a movie star. Wildly, wildly popular. There you see, that's a picture of her preaching in the inside of the Angelus Temple, and you can see the massive number of people there. And she was very theatrical. Remember, she always wanted to be in theater. Very theatrical. This is a picture of her. One particular service, she rode in the church on a motorcycle dressed as a female police officer. Very theatrical. So she was hyper seeker sensitive. She was the Ed Young Jr. of her day, the Stephen Furtick of her day, female version of that. So she was seeker sensitive before seeker sensitive was cool.